Hi, and welcome to the First Home Buyers podcast. Today we're going to be talking about 3 killer hacks to get you buyer ready by 2020. So let's check it out. Today I'm really excited and lucky to have Therese O'Neill. In a past life, Therese had a mentoring practice, and after 10 years, she sold that practice. But one of the things that she's super proud of is over 50 of those clients went on to become multi-award winners. So that really speaks to how well Therese is as a coach and a mentor. So today what we're going to talk about is first home buyers, and more specifically, Therese is going to share with us 3 killer hacks to get you buyer ready in 2020. So welcome, Therese. Thanks for coming along.
Oh, thank you very much, Marianne, for inviting me here today. I'm super excited to share these 3 killer hacks with the first home buyers that are listening today.
Yeah, I know they will love to hear what you've got to say.
And I think where I might start, Marianne, is before we talk about getting buy ready as a first home buyer in 2020, I want to backtrack and just talk about spending. So for those listeners out there, you may have heard a little bit about this Royal Commission into misconduct in the banking and financial services industry that probably gobbled up most of last year. And one of the things that came out of that Royal Commission, a lot of lenders that got slapped on the wrist when they were talking about assessing a client's capacity to repay a loan. And you might have heard, some of our listeners may have heard some stories, scary stories, horror stories in the last few weeks where Today Tonight or the ABC are throwing up stories where a couple that, for example, wanting to have an IVF baby were declined for finance. So it was like, choose the baby or the house, but you can't have both.
I remember reading that, yeah.
So certainly a headline story. And certainly at the exaggerated end of the spectrum. But what I wanted to do is talk to you today about that Royal Commission and the implications. And I'm going to go back to some data, and this is quoting UBS statistics. And what they said was Australian lenders used the household expenditure measure, otherwise known as HEM, in up to 80% of all home loans they approved in 2017. Now, this was something that changed dramatically post-Royal Commission. To explain, the household expenditure measure is a measure of average living expenses, depending on whether you're single, whether you're married with children, and it gives an average of what you might spend on basic items, plus an allowance for 25% discretionary spending. So what that meant for, say, a single bloke that's earning maybe $75,000 a year, the HEM would say that that single bloke would be spending about $1,500 a month on just general living. The brutal reality is that, unfortunately, for most of us, and guilty as charged, is we probably spend double. And that was what was investigated in the Royal Commission. So now these days, if you're looking to get into the market as a first home buyer, you need to understand that the lenders are going to scrutinise your spending by going through, in majority of times, having a look at what you spend your money on for the last 3 months. And the sad but brutal truth is we probably spend more like $3,000 rather than $1,500. A family with 2 children is probably spending more like $7,500 instead of $4,000. Yeah. So, which leads me to killer hack number 1.
Let's hear it.
Killer hack number 1 is very simple, is you need to limit your spending to the household expenditure measure, or HEM. And I'll give you an example of what this is like. So if I was a single fella again and I was earning $75,000 a year, after tax, that's something like about $59,000 a year net. If you're a single fella today and you've got 0 savings in your account, that means that you're spending $59,000 a year, which means you're probably spending something like about $4,500 a month. Now,
as a single person.
As
Wasn't
a
that
single
the family?
person.
Yeah.
If you actually stuck to that Henderson expenditure measure and you only spent $1,579 a month, so basic living expenses, 25% plus 25% buffer for discretionary spending, and I was in a share house, let's say, sharing a townhouse with another mate, then I would have at the end of 12 months, after taking into account my spending, $18,900 a year, and $10,500 allowance for rent, then I should have $29,500 left after 12 months. Now, I'll throw back to you, Marianne. $29,500. Is that enough deposit to buy my first home?
Look, the minimum deposit would be a 5% deposit. Obviously, the more the better. But if you're looking at a $400,000 house, that's $20,000 deposit.
Yes.
Plus, you've got your extra buffer there for any government fees, solicitor costs, and you've got a little buffer there for moving costs when you move in. You don't want to leave yourself with zero on settlement day. So that is plenty.
So that is my killer hack number one, is simply spend to the hem for your household makeup. So whether you're single, whether you're a couple, whether you've got children. And so that means curbing your discretionary expenses. So that's my killer hack number one. So for our listeners that are out there that want to know what the HEM benchmark is for my income bracket and for my household makeup, you can get the HEM table from Marianne and use that. And because I can tell you, in the majority of cases, if you stick to your HEM benchmark for spending, allowing for rent, because you're a first-time buyer, that means for most of you, you're renting at the moment, you will have saved sufficient to deposit to buy your first home within 12 months.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'll share at the end how they can get that table from me.
Great idea, Marianne. And just on it, if we just take another household, just a bit of a distinction now, if you're a couple out there as well, so again, according to, if I'm a couple and I'm earning between us somewhere around about $110,000, $120,000 a year, then after tax, as a couple, you're probably bringing in about $88,000 a year. If we allow for HEM spending, that's about $43,500 a year. And rent, let's say rent as a couple, you're paying about $21,000 a year in rent, then you should have $23,500 in savings left over at the end of the first year. So whether you're a single bloke or you're a couple striving to buy your first home, hack number one, stick to the HEM household expenditure measure to regulate your spending.
Fantastic. I love it.
So now let's get to killer hack number two to get first home buy ready in 2020. Killer hack number two. It's all about setting goals, listeners. If you don't write it down, you won't achieve it. And in fact, Marianne, we had a big goal setting for 2020 session yesterday as a group of us, didn't we?
Yeah.
And just for your listeners, so we all had to sit down and articulate 5 top goals. There was 4 of us in the room for 2020. So with your spending, and with your savings goals for 2020, if you're dead set serious and you want to buy your first house in 2020, then you've got to write that down. So goal number 1, I want to buy my house, first home. Goal number 2, I want to buy it in this particular area. Goal number 3, my first home is going to cost me, let's say, $400,000. Goal number 4, if I want to buy a house for $400,000 and I need to have at least a minimum 5% deposit, then I need to have saved $20,000 by the end of the year. What's $20,000 divided by 12 months? It's $1,800 a month. that I need to be saving. So you need to have those goals written down, thought through on a biggest piece of paper you possibly can.
I was going to say somewhere where you're going to see it
every
day.
single day, and you got to whack that up on your fridge. So that's my hack number 2. You must write goals down. They must be achievable. They must be realistic, and you must have them somewhere prominent so that you're keeping yourself accountable to achieving those goals and be reminded of it every single day.
You can also tell family and friends, this is my commitment, and they can help you on your journey.
That's exactly right, Marianne. And you never know, like sometimes when you put it out there, where you never know where you might find your friends and your family might come around with a home cooked dinner, or they might chip in and help you in other ways. It's going to help you achieve that goal. And they'll all applaud you from the sidelines.
Definitely.
Now, brings me to my final one, which is hack number 3. And I'm super excited about this. And for all the listeners out there, here it is. Put yourself into a 30-day no spending challenge. Now, let me just explain that in more detail. I'm not saying don't spend any money for 30 days because we can't. It's like living without water, yes? But what I'm suggesting you do for this one is the 30-day no spending challenge is you start by stop spending on a particular discretionary item. And I'll give you an example. You might say, for the next 30 days, I'm not going to spend any money on Uber Eats. Now, if you're doing
tough habit to kick.
Yeah. If you're doing Uber Eats twice a week on average, over the course of a month, that could potentially save you $250. Straight to your bottom
Imagine
line.
That over 12 months.
I know.
Wow.
Over 12 months, we're looking at $3,000. So if my savings target is $20,000, I'm like almost 25% of the way there just by cutting out Uber Eats.
Wow.
So let's say that's my first 30-day challenge, no spending challenge. Then I challenge our listeners to double up. So month 2, you continue not spending on Uber Eats, and then you add another discretionary item to stop spending money on.
Afterpay, perhaps?
No afterpay. So month 2, no Uber Eats and no afterpay. So let's say you save another $250 a month on your afterpay. You're now up to saving $500 a month. And if you can do that for 30, then 60 days in a row, I challenge the listeners out there to go a third month. What's something else you could give up, stop spending money on for another 30 days? Makeup. And gentlemen, nothing again. If gentlemen want to give up makeup, they can give up makeup spending as well. But for the ladies that are out there, do you really have to have that lipstick in that next shade? So imagine if we stopped spending on makeup for 30 days. And I think we know there could be at least $200 a month.
Yeah.
So that's my killer hack number 3. And Marianne has got some exciting news about a program, and this is where all these 3 killer hacks can come together.
So as part of the First Home Buyers program, there is a Facebook page, and what I'd really encourage you to do with hack number 3, I absolutely love it, and who doesn't love a 30-day challenge?
Absolutely.
So on the Facebook page, if you jump on and register, I encourage you to post your commitment. So what is your 30 days that you're going to go without? And then everyone else can applaud you, cheer you on, and help you through.
And some people might go, if you share what you're going to give up, then somebody else might be in the group and going, I never thought of that. I could give that up for a month. Yeah.
Definitely. And if you join the Facebook group, you'll also get to hear about when the First Home Buyers program goes live, which will be early in November. So you'll also get a little bit of a discount on that too.
That's good news.
Another little reason why you'd want to join now.
And I think, would we be right, Marianne, to say to all our listeners out there that do not have their first home, our mission, our absolute would make our heart sing, our passion is for every one of you guys to be buy ready 2020.
Absolutely. Nothing makes me happier than seeing a first home buyer move into their first home.
Thank you, Marianne, for having me in today. This is so exciting, and I can't wait. I'm hoping I can join the Facebook group so I can just vicariously listen and hear and celebrate everybody's stories.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll add you on. So make sure you jump on and say hi to Therese and myself, and put your 30-day challenge that you're committing to as well. So if you wanted a copy of the hem chart so that you can see how you could be living for your household makeup, then all you need to do is email me. It's Maryanne, MARYANNE, at 360mortgagesolutions.com.au, or better yet, if you're in the Facebook group, just pop a comment in there and I can get in touch with you. It's a lot easier. So other than that, guys, there's like some great opportunities and great hacks for you to get buyer ready for 2020. And I can't wait to hear your stories on the Facebook group and watch your journey start to evolve. Good luck.